Well, it is now 4 years that I'm living here in the bush, and there is no utilities available, no water, and no electricity. So I am, for the past 4 years, I've been relying on solar, and I'm happy to say that I don't really miss the utility companies. Anyway, let me put this drone up into the air. Then we look at the source of the power, which is the solar panels, and they are on the roof. I don't feel like climbing on the roof. So here we go.
0 meters altitude, 0 meters distance, 0 kilometers per hour, 90% battery.
This DJI drone is also 8 years old by now, and still performing well. Built in China by an American company. Anyway, the drone is on its way to the roof. Let me pause it there. Then we look at these solar panels. 4 years ago, when I bought most of these panels, these are 200 watt, 18 volt panels. Now, since I have a 3 kilowatt, 24 volt system, I had to wire two of these in series. Now, when you do that, the wattage remains the same, 200 watts. The voltage doubles, so it becomes 36 volt. So what I have here is actually one panel of 200 watt by 36 volt. The same with these two, the same with those, the same with those, and the same there and there. So in fact, I actually have 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12. That's 1,200 watt or 1.2 kilowatt. Now later on, as technology in Africa advanced, I found these panels. Now this panel is a 400 watt panel, 36 volt. This panel is the same as those two panels. So I've added two of them. Now 1,200 plus 800, that's now 2 kilowatt. I can still add a little more than a kilowatt, but for now I am not worried about it because these things generate far more power than what I utilize. Because in the house I only have a double door fridge, I have a freezer, I have a kettle, I have a microwave, and you know, all the normal things you find in a house. And if I run some of my machines and I exceed 2 kilowatt, then the inverter will take the balance from the batteries. And once I stop, the batteries will be topped up very quickly. I have a few water pumps, and yes, they don't run all the time. So yes, I have enough power to keep me going. This little solar water heater, also Chinese. But this thing, as I have never gone without hot water. It doesn't matter, even if it's a cloudy day. The only problem with it is it boils. If it's very hot, it will boil, and I don't know how to stop it from boiling, but that in itself is not a problem. Here I have a borehole, then I have this tank, plus a 900-watt pump. Now, this pump, I have a choice. I can irrigate the vegetable gardens, or I can irrigate. I have micro irrigation in the gardens, or I have a filter system here. I can, this all just by changing valves, I can rotate the water and clean it for the house if need be. Now there's a pump in the dam behind, which we cannot see now, but I'll show you the dam later. I can pump water from that dam into this tank, and then I can purify the water for the house if I need to, and then I can pump from here to the house tanks. I have another two boreholes which I drilled. One here, which is connected to the house tanks. The water here is a bit salty, but that's not a big problem because I don't drink it. And then I've got another well here, which is also fitted with a pump. And I use that mainly to supply water to this pond for the pigs. Usually let the animals out to forage, but today being a Sunday, I didn't feel like, and my helper is also not here. So the pigs must just be happy to remain inside. I have a few chickens as well. Now the dam I was talking about is this little dam here. It's 3 meters deep, and it gets water when it rains, and it holds about 215,000 liters of water. Now, in the past 4 years, I've never had any problem with water. Even if it stops raining, I can pump from the dam and then purify the water here, and then pump it into those tanks there. That is water for showering, washing the dishes, cleaning and the washing machine and so forth. As you can see, I am really in the bush, and this area at night, I can say every night, I am being visited by hyenas. They cannot enter this area around the house because I've got electric fence to keep them out. Now, this is the actual inverter. This is a 3 kilowatt, 24 volt inverter. I also have a small 5 kilowatt diesel generator, of which this is the changeover switch. I've tested three inverters when I started off 4 years ago. Two of them was from China and one from Europe. Now the European one was very expensive and actually so useless. And this one, Must, from China, is an excellent inverter. You can hook your laptop into it and you can program it. It starts the generator. That's actually good at night when I want to boil the kettle, and that will just take too much power from the batteries. The inverter will recognize that there's a demand. It will then start the generator, and it will stop the generator again after the demand has disappeared. I've divided the solar panels into groups of three, and these are the three circuit breakers. And then from here it goes into the inlet connection for the solar panels on the inverter. And this is just a level control on the overhead tank. It starts the pump when the tank is halfway empty, and then it stops it when it's full. I don't switch it on all the time because then the chances are good that it will start at night, and then the inverter will call the generator, and then diesel is expensive and there's no need for that. So what I do, I usually switch it on during the day, and then when it's full, it will show me that it's full, and then I switch it off again. As you can see, the batteries are full. It's charging at only 2 amps at the moment. Although if it needs to, it can go up to 80 amps. I don't have 80 amps for it, but I have about 45 amps from the solar panels. Now this is where I keep the batteries and the generator. This is a 5 kilowatt diesel. That's given me good service up to now. That is the electric fence to keep the hyenas out. And this is to reduce the 24 volt to 12 volt so that this high voltage controller can operate it. It uses 12 volt, not 24. Batteries, they are all 100 amp hour, and I have 12 of them. But again, I have to connect two in series because of the 24 volt inverter. That means I only have actually 6 batteries of 100 amp hour. But I've been going with this 12 batteries for a long time, and I have had no problem, so there's no need to add any batteries. The only thing is I'm busy building a wind turbine and an alternator to charge the batteries at night. Now, this is my little workshop, and I have a few machines here, other than hand tools. Now, this lathe, there's no problem to run this even at night. Welding machine, no problem. Compressor, no problem. Small drill press, no problem. This saw is also no problem. I can start it in it. There was one thing that gave me a very big headache. This combination woodworking machine, this is a planer and a thicknesser and a circular saw, and it's got so many other adapters. Now this thing I could not start at all, even with a 5 kilowatt generator. There's no way that once I switch it on, the generator trips. And the reason for that is it has a 2.2 kilowatt motor and it starts under load. And it requires about 50 amps on startup, which is way too much. When it's running, then it takes about between 6 and 8 amps. I can run the whole day and work with it a lot. But to get this thing to run, you have to start it. Now, we need to understand why this thing, or not only this, all motors uses a lot of amps on startup. Simply because the coils, the magnetic field of rotation, the moment the power is switched on, the coil starts, that magnetic field starts rotating at 50 cycles per second. And the motor wants to reach that speed as soon as possible. And that's why it's using so much power. Now what I did, I looked at this variable frequency drive. I actually imported it from China. Now, variable frequency drives, you can give it only one phase, single phase like I have, and it will produce for you 3 phases. So this variable frequency, not speed, what it does, you can tell it how, you can tell it to increase the frequency so that 50 hertz, 50 cycles per second, you can tell it to take that 50 cycles per second from 0 to 50 over a time period of a minute, meaning you remove the need of the motor to try and run at full speed immediately. It follows that cycles. So that's what I did with this. I removed the capacitors from the motor and I connected the motor as if though it's a 3-phase motor. And as you will see, I will start it and then you'll see how nice now it's working. There was only one small issue I had. This particular motor has a centrifugal switch. When it reaches its full RPM 2800, that switch opens and it cuts out the starting winding, and then the frequency drive stopped because it thought that it has single phase protection. It has to protect the motor. It thinks that one of the phases have gone lost. But fortunately, if you enter the settings, you can disable that single phase protection, which I did, and from there on, it is just a pleasure to work with this machine. Let me start it and then you guys will see that the impossible is possible. The 3 kilowatt inverter gives me about 16 amps before it will trip. So, but you can see this machine is starting very slowly and it takes its time to reach full speed. I don't mind, I can wait a minute before I start working. That is the story about my solar. And